Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to join the panel, then you can hit the information box below this video, but be sure to mute the page you are currently watching before hitting that join button. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a member of the Nathan Oakley 1980 channel crew and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now, we are joined by Chocolate Sane and Righteous Force in G+. First and foremost, a very good hello and good afternoon, good morning, wherever you may be to you two.
Good morning, good morning. How you guys doing?
Very well.
Good morning, guys.
Hello, Jibby.
Hello.
What's up, Jibby?
How you guys doing?
Very well, very well. We're also joined by a whole bunch of people in Discord, so hello to everyone in Discord.
Hello, hello. How's it going?
Very well.
Morning.
Good morning, good afternoon. Any signs of Earth curvature?
Who?
Only
Who?
in your mind.
Real or a legend?
I should have actually done this before I started housekeeping, but a couple of new members, one of which has literally just joined, which is Mason B, who's joined as a penguin, and also digitally analogous, who joined yesterday as a penguin. So thank you very much to both of you for joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member. Any signs of axial rotation?
Nope.
That would be a no.
Nope.
Any scientific evidence of gravity?
No.
Just fantasy.
Any evidence
First,
that...
it needs to be established what it is, really,
Well,
and not just our
not
preliminary
at the-
fantasies about it.
Coming from Arwen, that's pretty strong.
yeah,
Go ahead, Elijah.
yeah. From what I've heard, it's not at the really is level. So
Don't get me started.
I was going to say, you're stealing Chocolate's thunder there.
it depends on what is.
Is.
That's Clinton, isn't it? Male Clinton. Depends on what your definition of is, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Where are we? Any evidence of the distance to the sun? We've covered that. So any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astrophysics, cosmology, or astronomy?
Amazingly not.
What about
You would
the
think there would be,
tethers
though.
that were launched into?
I think the computer tells them their
space
size.
shuttle.
Can you guys not hear Earth-shaped investigator?
Sorry. Barely,
Good.
by the way.
Launching what? Sorry, Earth-shaped investigator.
The tethers, because that's supposed to float in space or in low Earth orbit and generate electricity. They call that an experiment. They showed videos.
Are you talking about the tether
Tether,
incident where it was supposedly that really long cable that the experiment was for that to generate electricity, but it broke off? Are you talking about that? Like that, basically that exists in space?
Yeah, I think he means the one where the tether hit the bottom of the pool and all these bubbles came up. Is that the one you mean?
No, I was talking about the space one that occurred ISS level.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking
It's
about.
called
too.
the tether
bubbles in
incident
the-
on YouTube.
Yeah,
Yeah,
is there an ISS one? I was talking about the space shuttle ones. I haven't looked up the ISS.
No, the height of the ISS, he said. We're all talking about the same thing. We're talking about The shuttle that had a long, thin piece of whatever, it's hard to tell from the images that they gave us, but it snapped off, floated away, and then seemingly hit the bottom of a pool. Now, thereafter, there was all sorts of debris that seemed to raise up from the pool, and that was latched onto by a load of alien hunters as extraterrestrial life floating around and looking at the tether.
They were calling that UFO discs 1 mile wide, based on the size of the tether. That was all extrapolated that the anomalies on the video were 1 mile wide or more.
Yeah, well, a load of bollocks. This is not a hypothesis, but thank you for bringing it up.
Yeah, just thought I'd mention that.
Go on, Elijah. Or Rams, whoever it was. Or John. You're just scuffling on your open mics. Bit of my discipline, please, gentlemen. Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Oh, God, we were just talking about that on PPC and how the 8 mile drill hole of Russia seems to be the same depth of the Marianas Trench. So that seems to be the depth that we're all at. How do we extrapolate much more from that?
Didn't know that. That's the depth of the Mariana Trench. The hole to hell is the same depth. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's about 7.5 miles, I believe, the Marianas Trench. Or it's basically equal to the drill hole depth.
12k, the hole to hell.
Yes.
Okay. So just the hole to hell, that's the only... Mariana Trench, that's it. That's as close as we get to the core, is it?
That seems to be it. Now, how do we extrapolate much more beyond that? Would they hit it with sonar? How far can you get? Can you get 5,000 miles down? Doubtful.
About the presupposition of the Earth radius itself, at the R value. Any evidence of that?
Ha!
They'll keep asserting that anytime.
Yeah, no R, but Nathan T. Cozy is asking to be unmuted in Discord.
My bad. Hell is he? I can't even see him in there.
Oh, you might have left then.
Oh, there he is.
He's yeah, there you go.
Go ahead, Babs.
Hear me? Mic check, mic check.
Yeah, we hear you.
I might.
Very last housekeeping question.
So Babs.
Any evidence that you can have gas pressure without a container?
No. Big no.
Apparently, gravity acts as the container.
Gravity is not a force. There's no scientific evidence. Didn't we just cover this?
Right.
According to NASA, hydrogen molecules escape gravity.
Look, whatever you're going to imagine is up there doing things, there's simply no way to demonstrate that gas pressure can even manifest in the first place without a container.
Yeah, that's our whole argument. Well said. What's that you say? Differential pressures underneath a wing? What's that you say? Differential pressures in a hurricane? Where did you get the gas pressure from in the first instance to have this gas pressure differential?
Exactly.
So you would need some kind of container wall?
Well, to quote Conspiracy Cats, without the container, there can be no pressure. End quote. 2019, Conspiracy Cats. Or another quote, without the balloon, there is no pressure. End quote. Conspiracy Cats, again, 2019. You need a container to have gas pressure in the first instance to then have a gas pressure differential. It's a delta of the gas pressure we're asking in regards to how we have it if we're not contained and there's merely a vast space for the gas to dissipate into. That would be outer space. A space the gas can fill and wants to by way of entropy. It wants to disperse into whatever available volume it has, and the sky vacuum, as it's claimed, is an available space that the gas would disperse into. The fact that it doesn't mean that the gas isn't dispersing into a sky vacuum. It means the sky is not a vacuum.
I was asking Puppy actually this morning how they measured the 10 to the minus 17 Tor value for space, and his response was satellites and the speed that they're able to move in up there can only be achieved in such an environment.
Circular.
That's
Circular
ridiculous.
reasoning.
There's not even supposed to be that level of vacuum up there. That doesn't make any sense.
Circular reasoning. Presupposing that there's a vacuum, and then these
How do you have
satellites.
Officially, the
presupposes-
statistics don't even say there's that level of vacuum over there. So it's just
Right.
broken reasoning, even by their own standards.
How do you have a theoretical door to a 10 to the minus 17 vacuum from a pressurized system?
No, they don't.
But
It's
what
a
can
completely
hold
open
it that-
system, Jibby.
You know, in The Princess Bride, when they bring the guy to the little troll played by Billy Crystal, and he's like, you could bring him back to life. He's like, yeah, he's only mostly dead. Well, it's like that with the atmosphere. It's only mostly closed, right? It could be open whenever they want, when they want to send things like Voyager out and all these little satellites and people to the moon. Yeah. For those purposes, it's open, but for every other purpose, it's closed.
Well, when I hear a story about how hydrogen molecules escape past the moon, I get this weird idea. Maybe I can fill a balloon with hydrogen in a really solid contained system and then send a balloon to the moon.
Yeah,
Could
by
that
virtue,
not be done with hydrogen versus helium?
based on their current rhetoric and the late 1990s moving of the Tor values, which is arbitrary, they can change the values to whatever they like. They're only discussing their model. Let's just make that clear first of all. All of what we're discussing here is not applicable to Earth. Sky is not a vacuum, the gas would fill the space. All of these Tor values that are claimed in the heliocentric model, they're nothing to do with our reality. I just want to get that absolutely plain. So if you want to change the Tor values in a model, you can. It's merely a matter of getting the bottom of your pencil, rubbing out the old value and writing a new one in. Because it's just a model. It's not where we live. It is inconsequential to what the sky actually is, what they say the Tor values are, just to make that clear. But in their
Correct.
model of the Earth-Moon system, just to address what you said, Jibby, yeah, they're saying that you could extend that atmosphere out to the moon based on the current Tor values. So you should be able to just take a balloon to the moon. Utter horse shit, but that's their current rhetoric. It's still...
Right, it's playing around in their model.
Yeah, just their model. But still, their model still violates natural law because that's still absolutely and unequivocally an open system in a vacuum. And the gas would fill that space. In reality. In the model it doesn't.
Clearly, in that reality, but you can play with their model in their Star Trek science.
Yeah, you can do what you like in a model. So you can change the
Yes.
Tor values, you can have gas pressure next to a vacuum, you can do all that stuff in the model.
And they changed the model, which is why I said, well, since hydrogen can get to the moon, I can send a hydrogen balloon to the moon. Because you said so. Not applying that to the actual reality, but according to their Star Trek, well, that's a new thing now. A balloon to the moon.
In their model.
According to that.
In their model.
Yes.
Obviously, none of us are going to jump on a balloon and travel to the moon. That's ludicrous. Equally, no one jumped on a penis rocket and went to the moon either. That's ludicrous. That also took place in the fantasy reality of their model.
I used to think cylindrical rockets would have to lift off very quickly in order to maintain their trajectory. Turns out I was wrong. A cylindrical rocket without fins or directionals can accelerate very slowly and go straight as an arrow.
Yeah, we've
What
seen
do
it.
I know? I'm
we've
not a
seen-
rocket scientist.
We've seen it
None
on
of us
TV
are.
though, eh?
There we go. We still on housekeeping?
Nah, sorry, but feel free.
There's an echo. Why can't I hear myself right now?
Watch screen.
Oh, it's gone. No, there's an echo. It's gone now. But it's interesting that you guys are talking about models. I've been busy trying to work on a flat Earth model, and I actually discovered a lot of cool stuff in the process of doing this. But before we get into that, I understand what your stance is as far as models are concerned. You say that models are pseudoscience, they're not reality. So let's just look at what pseudoscience actually means. So pseudoscience consists of statements, beliefs, or practices that are claimed to be both scientific and factual, but are incompatible with the scientific method. I agree with that 100%. But we can use models for other purposes other than science. Like models can be used to scale things down, to measure things. But I'm not saying that your stance is wrong. I just think that certain things are useful as far as discovering what the world that we're in really looks like, and like relationships between stuff that we see in the sky in comparison to us here on Earth. So yeah, I sent some images to Chocolate. I don't know if he's gonna be able to share them with you right now. Is that possible?
Oh,
Yes.
I didn't see him until just now. Give me a second. I'll share him with the rest of the guys.
But to assert that what you see in your model, because you claim it's a scaled down version of reality, won't describe reality. That's called reification.
It's not going to describe reality, but it's going to just help us understand what we're looking at a little bit better. Don't you think so?
It's going to help us understand what looking at your model does.
No, by modeling things, we can understand how they actually work in reality.
No, that's called reification. Just said that.
Oh, yeah, it is reification, but I mean,
So that
isn't
would be a
there
logical,
value in doing that?
Logically,
are we gaining something from doing that?
You appreciate that reification is logically flawed.
So, because you're making something intangible, concrete, and real when it's not real?
Right. The fallacy of misplaced concretedness, making that which is not concrete, in this instance a model, represent actual reality. Hypothesization.
Right, but
Like,
I could make
for
a model
instance,
of
one
anything.
example of that would be trying to measure the circumference of your surroundings based on the movement of the lights above. The movement of the lights above can never tell you the complete area of the dance floor. They're just showing you where they move above the dance floor. It doesn't tell you anything about the dance floor or the shape.
Not exactly. It's saying the dance floor's a sphere, and because I move the lights around my sphere-shaped dance floor, the ground you're standing on is sphere-shaped. That's reification. Taking your model and saying, my model has the lights moving around it, thus, therefore the lights in the sky move around like they do on my model. No, they don't.
I agree that it is reification, but at the same time, what does that leave you with? Like, how are we supposed to figure out how stuff really looks? Are we just going to speculate and just guess what stuff looks like?
What do you mean?
We can model it just to get an idea.
I've got a set of eyeballs.
Not to say that the model.
I've got a set of eyeballs. When you say what stuff looks like, why would I look at a model for that? I've got a set of eyeballs.
But your eyeballs aren't telescopes. You can't look at the whole Earth in one go. You gotta take small snapshots and make a model based on that.
Says who?
What I'm saying is that you can't see Earth in its entirety.
Hold on 1 second. Shout out to Paul Connell for the super chat. Thank you very much for your support. Sorry, whoever interrupted, just let Babs get to the end of his point.
Yeah, you can't see Earth in its entirety, so you have to just work with whatever data you have, whatever you've gathered from observations, which is still flawed because even with these observations that we're doing, we're only looking at such a small percentage of Earth and saying that the rest of Earth looks like this small percentage that I'm looking at. That's inaccurate because you're never looking at everything in entirety. So models are useful because you're able to take data from observations and sort of get an idea of what the terrain looks like. It may not be real. Yes, it's reification, but it's better than just speculating and saying there's an ice wall or it's an infinite plane and not really trying to figure out how it works out geometrically.
Okay, I just want to get something clear. I'm not saying models aren't useful. That's not what I'm saying. At the point where you assert that based on what you have modelled, it is a representation of reality, at that point, you are guilty of the fallacy of reification. So you might say, well, this model's helping me understand what reality does. That's the same exact thing, just rephrased and repackaged. So you're saying what you're going to now understand based on what you've done on the model is... And how it's come from the original observation you did with your eyes anyway, that now that you've got a complete picture from the model, you know what the reality does. That's reification. Now, yeah, feel free, model what you like. I'm all for people trying to figure out where we are.
And that's what we criticize them for.
And right.
Also,
okay.
Also, I would like to point out that even though it might be your opinion that it's not the best, but it's something that still falls under the first thing you mentioned, which is pseudoscience, which you read the definition for. And that's unfortunate, but it's true.
Right,
it's exactly what we criticize the heliocentric people of doing as well. So we don't want to start doing exactly what we criticize them for.
Right, exactly.
Right. But you do understand that we're not all the same. We're different. We all have different approaches. This isn't a cult. We have different methods for how we're approaching this issue. So I'm not saying that my ideas or whatever I'm doing right now speaks for everybody in the community. I'm just saying, I'm just giving you an idea of what my perspective is, pretty much.
Fair enough. There's nothing wrong with that. Like I say, I'm not trying to discourage people from models or vilifying models. It's the fallacy of misplaced concreteness upon asserting that that is therefore how reality works because that is how it works in your model. But so long as you don't do that, who cares? Model away, man. I'm not live and let live.
Right.
So check this out.
We don't live on a model because we don't. But a model is used to describe the reality. That's it. If you're using a model, well, we're not a model. We don't live on a model. We live in a reality. You can use a model to help describe the reality. That's where you have to leave.
Exactly. Just like you can use mathematics to describe reality. It's not reality. It's just a language that you're using to describe reality. Which goes on to the next thing that I was getting into.
But just before you do, so descriptions, as you correctly point out, in terms of mathematics, well, that's an abstraction. It's abstract. Well, explanations come from science. You can explain things if you're using science, whereas having an abstract description, mathematical or otherwise, isn't an explanation or a description of your reality, upon assertion of which you are guilty of the fallacy of misplaced concreteness. Feel free to carry on. Just wanted to drop that in there.
Right. Okay, so speaking of models, I'm sure a lot of you have heard the globe earthers constantly asking us for a model. Where's your model? Produce your model. You guys don't even have a single model of how flat Earth works. But the funny thing is that when we look at the globe, they don't have the same thing either. I recently found out that there are 75 different projections of the globe. Two examples of this are like Gauss-Peters projection or the Gleason's map. So they don't have like a single model. And by a single model, what I mean is the exact same thing that they want from us. They want us to produce a three-dimensional computer rendered model that shows everything working, but they don't even have that. They don't have a single 3D rendered model that shows every single thing that we see in reality working at once. They only have like things that use augmented reality, like Stellarium or any star map type of app that just superimposes stars onto a sphere. You know, they don't have like a single model that shows every single thing working at once. And by everything, this is what I mean. Could you, if Chocolate could share the first image that I sent him, I could explain that in a little bit more detail.
The one with
And I
the
wanted to say you are 100% correct.
the one with
And
just 1 second, Jippy. Sorry.
when they say a working model, they want everything involved. Well, when I say, do you have a heliocentric model with everything working, they don't have that. In fact, they're still adding to it. In 2005 and 2006, they added 2 new moons to Pluto. So that's called a model in progress. It's still they're not done. They weren't done in the year 2000. They had to have 2 new moons to Pluto. Pluto's up to 5 moons. I learned the helio model when Pluto only had 1 moon. So that's a model in progress. Where's their model?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Still in progress.
Exactly. The only thing they're going to show you is a globe, like a physical inflated ball or like a paper mache model, but they can't show you a computer rendered image of the globe with everything working. Could you go to the first image, the one that's typed out, if you don't mind?
Okay, I've got the one with the like a sine wave. Is that the one?
That's actually the third image.
Oh, okay.
Let's go to the.
Got sunrise and sunset, solar and lunar analemmas. Is that the one?
Right.
Yeah, it's on.
Yep. So I challenge any glober to show us a 3-dimensional rendered model that shows sunrises and sunsets, solar and lunar analemmas, solar eclipses, moon phases, northern and southern star rotations, solstices and equinoxes, and seasons, all working at once on one single model. They can't do it because it doesn't exist. Yet they expect us to do the same thing. They're asking us to produce one 3-dimensional model that shows all of these things working at once. Why can't they do it? You know? So if you could go to the second image, if you don't mind.
They're not in order. You'll have to tell me which one the second image is.
That one right there. Yeah.
Okay.
The moon phases. Okay. So currently what we have, what we're working with right now, not speaking for you guys on this show, but other flat earthers, prominent flat earthers that we know about, use the AE map. And as we know, the AE map has the sun and the moon circling around Earth. But a couple of problems with this particular model is that if the moon is reflecting sunlight, if it's moving around, we're going to expect to see different phases all the time. It wouldn't just be, the phases would be completely different than what we normally see, just based on how that geometry would work. So the only way we could have a rotating local moon and sun working with moon phases is if the moon is self-illuminating, meaning that it's not reflecting light from the sun and it's generating its own light and generating its own phases. That's the only way that it would work. So lastly, if you could go to the third image. There. when I was trying to figure out how the sun and the moon actually work, I stumbled across timeanddate.com, and they have this tool that allows you to see where the sun's going to be at different times of day, as well as different times of the year, different seasons. And the interesting thing is that they use the Mercator map on this tool, and I just wonder why they chose to use this particular map. Is it because this is what the world really looks like? But if that is the case, we run into another problem because we don't live on a rectangular looping model like in Arwen's case with the sun going through portals. That's kind of ridiculous. So trying to figure out what the sun is actually doing on this model is a little bit problematic, but it makes more sense than the AE map because the AE map can't predict southern star rotations, and it gets a lot of things wrong, whereas this sort of accurately gives us an idea of how different aspects work. But yeah, this is as far as I got so far. I just felt like sharing it with you guys. I know that Nathan, a couple of years ago, already undertook doing this with like the sun tracking thing that he was doing with Antonio. I didn't really look that much into that, but I'm curious to know what were the results of that? Like, what did you figure out? Did you actually manage to understand what the sun is doing, or what were your conclusions with that in particular?
Well, specifically that time and date is incorrect in certain parts of the world, so it was off by an hour in some instances. So we had people measuring solar noon, and somebody was particularly close to the equator. I can't remember, it was 4 years ago, but somebody who had sun directly above them at solar noon, and it absolutely wasn't time for them to have solar noon. It was an hour out by time and date. So if nothing else,
yes, we proved this. Correct.
I remember my heart nearly stopping when it happened. It was, there was some moments in that sun tracking. Most of it was absolutely tedious. You're sitting there waiting for someone to tune in the next time zone. Very boring. But then there was moments that were truly heart-stopping. So that was one of them. The fact that sun and moon, time and date, is inaccurate was the main conclusion that I would have drawn from it. The maps aren't right. You can.
It's inaccurate.
No, it's definitely not accurate. But the maps are inaccurate also, and you've highlighted that already. I think you pretty much covered it. Yeah, I want to see if a globe with a pressurized gas around it and all that in a vacuum chamber, says Alexander. Thank you very much for the super chat, Alexander. Yeah, you want to see their second law of thermodynamics violation modelled is what you're saying, basically, my friend. Indeedy. You won't. It's not possible.
Right. Yeah, so, I mean, this is something that we've dealt with like a long time ago. I remember in like 2016, Flat Earth asshole Jake, or whatever his name was, talked about this. He was like, boycott the AE map. It doesn't work. This is something we've known for a really long time. But there are new globers that have come into the discussion that are unaware of this and think that they're the first people to recognize these errors. Like Stingray, for example, the guy that's on Jose's show, like he tried to model flat Earth, but all he did was he just took the AE map and took like circles and like spun them around the map. He didn't really think about geometry or looking at different renditions and how it would actually work. He just took a biased approach, and he knew that it wasn't going to work, and I felt like it was very disingenuous on his part. But yeah, I'm currently working on this right now and just trying to see how far I can go with this,
It's a pre-laid false dichotomy fallacy. So what they do is the controlled opposition presents us with our model, us being flat earthers. So here you go, this is the flat earthers model. Like, who the hell made this? And who the hell uses this? Oh, why? All of the government bodies use it, do they? This is our map, is it? And what? Apparently that's us saying truth in plain sight. No, what truth? It's not our map. But apparently that's our map. Why? Well, because they say it's our map. And then we have to defend this map that the UN use on their flags. So we're defending a UN flag map. Really? Why? Well, because when they show why it doesn't work, that proves the Earth's a sphere, of course. Because I've got my model of a sphere that we don't live on, and you've got your model that I've given you. Now, why doesn't your model that I've given you work? Well, because Earth's a globe. False dichotomy fallacy that I've just proven my model works in, because your model doesn't work. Hello? We don't live on a model. That's not representative of reality. That's the fallacy of misplaced concretedness. But they want us to have a model so they can burn it. And in burning it, they say we're on a globe. It's just as simple as that. Controlled opposition narrative.
Right. And not just that, just like I stated at the beginning of this presentation, they're asking us for a single model that does everything when they don't even have that. So perhaps they should produce one single model that does everything first before asking us to do the same. But I doubt they can do that because it's impossible.
Peter's projection, Mercator, they have different ones they show the weather with. But which one is more accurate? Like the video we've all seen in this community, where they showed the Peter's projection map, and they said that that's more accurate, where it drastically changes the sizes of Africa and Greenland. It seems to be political maps, not physical.
Can you back off your mic just a smidge, Jimmy? Bit hot.
I used to think that too. I thought it was like a political thing. I heard someone mention that a while ago, but that's not true. The reason that the continents are different sizes.
The West Wing told you it was a political thing when they broke down the Gull-Peters versus Mercator. So the West Wing said this is a political issue.
But it's not. The only reason that the continents are different sizes is because it's a projection from a globe. So distortion is going to happen. That has nothing to do with politics.
You said it's a projection from a globe. It's a flat. Everything's laid out flat, mapped flat, wrapped around a globe, and then projected onto these maps. So the origin is flat. All maps are flat. That's what you're utilising and using. The fact that it goes through this convoluted process where they claim it's gone onto a sphere and then been projected back out onto a flat map is just a load of convoluted nonsense. What are you actually dealing with? Well, you're dealing with flat maps that are distorted because they've been projected onto a sphere and then back onto a flat map again.
That's what I thought. I thought the distortion was because it was taken from a spherical globe and projected onto a flat surface.
Yeah, but where did it come from in the first instance? They're mapping it without any curvature. So where are you getting the curvature to start with? Well, you're not. You're starting with a flat map. And the guy who made the sphere bullshit 2007 blue marble even went through the process of how he did it. You take the mapping, which is flat, you wrap it around a sphere and it looks like this stupid donut thing. Then you massage it all out till it all fits and then you've got this globe. There you go, Bob's your uncle. Well, they're starting by mapping out the flat territory, then wrapping it around a sphere, then mapping it back out as a projection. Well, the projections are therefore heavily distorted. Doesn't that make sense? But obviously they leave out the bit where they take it from the flat territory we live on, and they just say, oh, well, it's come from a sphere. Oh, right. No, it hasn't. It's been put on a sphere, then put back onto a flat projection.
Right. And someone in the chat just said that Google Earth is a perfect 3D rendered model of the globe with everything working. So why don't you show us solar eclipses on Google Earth?
It's not. It jumps down to a 2D projection. I mean, they've smoothed that out beautifully.
Yeah, it's not.
Well, this is something that was documented during the Isle of Man. So if you go and check out Flat Earth Debate 60 through 200, we're using it where it goes through a very distinct transition, Google Earth and Google Earth Pro, when they leave the 3D rendered, scale fudged globe view and go into the flat map view. And it was really obvious back then. Hey, Ranty's joined, so he'll reminisce about this because it was comical back then. Now it's super smooth and the transition's hardly even noticeable. But back then, you definitely knew when you transitioned from 3D to the 2D flat map rendering because it changed.
Even if you do transition to the 3D model, it still doesn't show you like star rotations or lunar phases. It doesn't show you any of that.
No.
So how is that a complete model?
Who cares? When anybody comes and presents this, I was going to use this as a rounding out point, but I'll just make one more point that Arwin made, which is when he compared the new version of Google Maps as opposed to Google Earth. It did the same thing Google Earth did, which is as you zoom in and zoom out, the scale's changing. So it's completely changing the scale of the land you're looking at when it references that sphere model it starts out with. Well, it can't do that forever. It's got to transition. But I remember Arwin showing me on the map for you and had it up. I can't remember which episode it was, but dragging the mouse around and showing the little bar changing size. And you're like, whoa, the scale's completely changing.
Right.
Shout out
Exactly.
to Godzilla. Just one second, I'm just going to read out this super chat and then I will point out my defence to all of this, which makes it all null. Why is it so hard to prove the wet spinning ball rocket? Wet spinning ball rocket? It should be easy. I think he means Earth. Maybe the 2000th episode. Keep up the great work, Nathan. Thank you very much indeed for the super chat, Godzilla37. Really appreciate your support. The point is that Tim Osman comes with Stellarium. This has happened a couple of times. And I say to him, is the ground beneath my feet in Stellarium? And his answer is, yeah, Stellarium's got the ground in it. And I go, so the ground beneath my feet is in this CGI rendering model, is it? And suddenly he realises that if he says yes, he's saying, yeah, I believe your feet, your skin and bones are inside a model, inside this CGI rendering. No, they're not. End of argument. Because by asserting that what the model does and says makes what the ground beneath my feet and what I see looking up does is the fallacy of misplaced concreteness, turning that which is not concrete into that which I actually experience. The ground beneath my feet is definitely not in a model on a computer. It's the ground. I can touch it. It's soil and stuff. That's not in the computer. That's reality. And we don't live in these models. So to assert what the sky's actually doing based on them is a fallacy. Reification.
Right.
But good luck with your model. I look forward to watching them burn it in comparison to their model. Now, I'm only kidding. I'm sure you'll do fine.
David Weiss has a bit of a model, doesn't he, with his app?
Look, he's the boss. He's
No,
allowed
he
to do what he
doesn't.
likes.
Just has the
Yeah,
AE map with circling suns and moons. It's so inaccurate.
He's been able to
yeah,
integrate
I want to.
quite a few elements to it, so he's doing a good job with that.
Yeah, I want to zoom in like the universe and see some of these black holes and all of this other stuff going on in the complete heliocentric model. I want to see like stars blowing up and
You're breaking up, dude. Oh, well, isn't this nice?
Good morning, Nathan.
Morning, Brenda.
Spreading more lies, are you? You're the one committing the fallacy of misplaced concreteness when you think that a model actually has your feet in it.
I don't think a model's got my feet in it. My point was my feet aren't in a model.
Yeah, that's the fallacy of misplaced concreteness.
Yeah, that's the point I made. Thanks.
No, you're the one committing the
that
fallacy.
was literally his point, Brenda.
So when I say that Tim Osman presented Stellarium and I asked him if the ground beneath my feet is in Stellarium, that's me committing the fallacy and me thinking my feet are in Stellarium that Tim Osman presented.
Yes.
You're a moron.
Yes, you're the one committing the fallacy.
Really?
Yes.
So
no, you are.
I'm not making.
That's exactly what it is. That you think
he's the one
in a computer program.
He's the one calling out
your feet should actually.
Are you a psycho?
What the fuck is she babbling about? I'm not presenting Stellarium. Tim Osman was in my example. You fucking retard.
So Nathan, you said that the time zones represented on timeanddate.com are incorrect. How did you figure that one out?
Because when it said solar noon would arrive, it didn't.
Solar noon where? In which
I
location?
can't remember. I'm really sorry. Several locations.
Okay.
It was more than one. It didn't just happen once. It happened on both the equinox, and it happened on both events, both sun trackings. We had instances where it literally did not match with what it said or where it said the sun would be. Off by an hour.
Did you measure like the sun angles, or was this just based on observation alone?
It's based on solar noon, so you can obviously, certainly on the equator when one of the events happened, the way she proved that it was solar noon was she picked up a plant pot. That's all she did, and there was a shadow directly beneath it. You know, you couldn't get any more legit proof that the sun was directly overhead.
Right.
But it was off.
Okay.
On, like I say, on time.
It was off by how much?
About an hour.
Was it like a huge deviation?
Say again.
Said it was off by about an hour.
In some, like I said, there was more than one, but there was one very specific one on the equator. I can't remember which country, and it was off by about an hour.
And is that based on the 15 degree per hour drift?
Just based on specifically, Sun and Moon says the sun's going to be at solar noon at this point over this country, and it wasn't. That's it.
Okay.
Hello. We've seen something very interesting in the chat. F3 Stop Motion says, I'm buying a ticket on the Virgin Space plane, and I'll show you guys. Excellent. What, are you going to show us the ticket, or are you going to show us some proof?
I look forward to seeing it. There's already plenty of claimed pictures from a second law of thermodynamics violation you appreciate. They're all fake. Why? Well, because the sky is not a vacuum. That would be a violation of a law of nature. So, yeah, I'm sure you might go up really high. You might even bring back some pictures. But will it prove the sky is a vacuum? No, that'll still be a violation of a law of nature. Just like when Samsung sent up their balloon for a quote-unquote space selfie. Well, no, their balloon wasn't in space, fundies. They just said it was in space when it was actually on a balloon. But that didn't stop them calling it a space selfie, right? Yeah, it just wasn't though, was it? Absolutely confirmed the sky isn't a vacuum, and that they were claiming it was space that it was in for your space selfie. Yeah, that's just...
Do you guys know the details of the Felix Baumgartner balloon?
I question the
For
validity
one,
of the whole
the
thing.
balloon was said to be something like 45 acres wide.
The balloon?
That's pretty much like
Yeah, it
Rhode
was a
Island
big
floating
freaking
in the
balloon.
sky.
That's enormous. Sorry about that. I question the whole Baumgartner. Since somebody showed me a few continuity errors in the videography, I'm like, this whole thing could be totally bunk, just based purely on continuity errors that were impossible. But that's
a funny story. A funny story is my buddy Mike was the guy in the booth. Camera 1, camera 2. Okay, switch to audio 1, audio 2. He was in the booth for the Felix Baumgartner jump. He ran the booth.
Really?
My friend. I didn't even know this until a couple of years ago. And he's like, I did the feed for that. And he's been in TV and industry for a long time. I've always known that. I just had no idea he did that. And I said, do you know that was not the curvature of the Earth? And he said, there were no GoPros there. And I said, did you do the cameras or were you in the booth? He didn't say anything. I said, those were GoPros. You didn't know those were GoPros? The guy who ran the feed for the Felix Baumgartner jump had no idea those were GoPros. I'm telling you this from first person, knowing the guy who ran the feed. He didn't even know. But when I brought up to him, you, the guy who installed the cameras, he had nothing to say. You know, he retracted. He's like, I know, like I was in the booth. But he thought, even he thought that was the curvature of the Earth.
Wow.
Planet Arizona.
Compartmentalization is amazing. It'd be worth asking him about the continuity errors if he was actually if he's claiming to be in the booth. I'll see if I can dig out the continuity errors with the Baumgartner jump and put them to him and say, how is it possible that this logo's disappeared off the side? Or some, I can't remember the exact continuity error, but you know what a continuity error is.
Yes.
Right.
I can send any of your questions to him directly.
Cool.
He was the guy who ran the feed. He currently works for NPR right now, but that was his job then. I know him. I want to get him on Mark Sargent's show or something just to talk about it. But he's very standoffish. He makes fun of me for flat Earth. But when I pressure him on these things, he shuts down, and I don't want to lose him, as a friend.
Right.
But at the same time, I do want to get him in our discussion. And it's very sensitive, so I'm working on it.
Well, I'll appeal to the hive mind.
I do know the guy who ran that feed.
I'll appeal to the hive mind, speaking of Mark Sargent, then. So if you're watching this and you can leave a comment and you already know where the continuity error video in regard to Baumgartner's jump is, please leave it as a comment link and I'll pass it on to Chippy so he can pass it on to his dude.
Yes, I will get the questions and comments to him directly.
Right, quick shout out to Isa Mahalski. Woo! It says, but me multiverse, smiley winky face. FE is the Donald Trump of cosmology and artificial intelligence is fake news. Peace to the good. Fire, fire. Peace sign. Thank you very much, Isa Mahalski, for your super chat. Really appreciate your support. Subscribe to Isa Mahalski. Listen to his music. He's ace.
I've got a video up from the BBC. I'm going to play about 3 seconds if it's all right with you, Nath. I'm going to put it on slow, no sound.
Go ahead.
It's the Felix Baumgartner jump. We've just been talking about it. So they say that they don't use GoPros, etc. Okay, so here we have a very curved surface here. I wonder what this could be, Nathan, this white area at the top. What do you think that could be if I play the video? Oh, look, it's flattening out. Here we go. Look at this. Oh, what's this?
Cool. Very good.
Yeah, and they don't
Was Lord Stephen Christ correct?
Concave reality. Yeah, like I say, I've recently come to question the entire validity of it, so I'm intrigued to hear, if you get a response at all, what this dude has to say about the continuity errors.
Yeah. I'd love to get him in this discussion. He's a really, down-to-earth guy. He's blue-collar like us. Just, these people are compartmentalized. He only knew his job. When I brought up GoPro, he shut down. It didn't even occur to him. Like it doesn't to most people. Like, do you realize that's GoPro? Because they always used to refer to us back, at least in 2015, they were like, well, what about Felix Baumgartner's jump? And we're like, look at the curvature. How high up was he? They didn't even think of it. He didn't even think of it. The man who ran it, like, he has his job to do. He's running that feed. He don't know anything outside of that.
Another shout out to Godzilla37. Quote, wet spinning ball rocket, end quote, was coined by Ran, aka Flat Out Elected. Shout out to Ran. Yeah, down in the Dominican Republic, right? Cool, very cool. I didn't know that. So, wet spinning ball rocket.
Yeah, it's like another version of my magical spinning water ball. I like that, the wet spinning ball rocket.
In a vacuum.
In a vacuum, yep.
Tony was quite happy today. I don't know if you spoke to him.
Who?
Sleeping Warrior.
No, go on. Why is he happy?
He was ecstatic actually, because he actually won the award that he was trying to get. You know, the Globers Award for.
He was like petitioning to win Dumbfuck of the Year, wasn't he?
Yeah. I mean, he asked me to put a community post on, which I did about a month ago, sort of like encouraging people to go and vote for him. He's put some videos out on his channel, or sort of been encouraging people to, and he did it on here as well. Well, apparently he won by 70 votes, so he got what he got what he wanted, and it was all from himself essentially. You know, from his wanting to do it. So he's actually took their award away from them in effect.
Yeah, I like it.
It wasn't really.
It's got a term called taking ownership. So he's taken ownership of Dumbfuck of the Year and gone, yeah, give me the award. I want it. In fact, I'm going to petition for it. Get me the award. I'm going to win the award. In fact, that's my award. What's that you say? It is my award. Yeah, I knew it before you even announced it. Just taking ownership of it. Yeah, you've been owned.
That's called the Golden Globies.
Owned by
and
Sleeping Warrior.
They were actually complaining about it afterwards, saying that maybe he shouldn't have been allowed to actually take part in this particular award because he was voting, getting people to vote for him. Like,
he took the wind out of their sails. That's so sad.
So what
I guess they were expecting him to make a video and be like, "Oh, why did they nominate me?" And this is so upsetting. No. He's like, "Yeah, give me that. Thanks. I'll take it."
They don't realise by saying that they've essentially declared the fact he's won. Oh, we're really annoyed about this. Should we even give him the award? Just like, yeah, I bet he's pissing his pants. Hey, Adam.
Hi, you guys. You all right?
Very well.
I was looking up for the Felix Baumgartner continuity error.
Yes.
I've got it here if you want.
Oh, yes, please. We've only got a minute left on this show, though. Might squeeze it in if you're quick.
Right, let me quickly screen share then.
Kiss you, Adam. You're ace.
Okay, so if you bear with me.
Brr.
One. There. See here, bottom corner, there's Zenith. Look where the paneling is. Yeah. Now if you go to this picture, move from down here, look, to up here.
Yeah, that's pretty obvious, isn't it?
Excellent. Was there any others, or was that?
That's the main one that I knew of. It's the jumping logo as it moves from panel.
Absolutely perfect. Thank you very much. Your timing couldn't be better, Adam.
Always, mate.
And with that, I'll say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who tuned in on the Nathan Oakley 1980 live stream for joining as a member, smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff. If you are watching on Nathan Oakley premiering stream, however, stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. A massive thank you to all of today's Discord and G+ panels for making this live show possible. I've been Nathan Oakley. Stay tuned if you're watching on Nathan Oakley channel, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!